Hi, I'm Kurt Smith. I'd like to welcome you to AppTalks, a series of ongoing conversations we'll be having with Salesforce customers on how they're harnessing the power of the App Exchange to connect to their customers in entirely new ways. And today I'm really pleased to welcome Steve DeMarco, who is the Vice President of Worldwide Sales at Xactly. Steve, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kurt. As Kurt mentioned, I'm Steve DeMarco. I'm the Vice President of Worldwide Sales for Xactly Corporation. Xactly is a 9-year-old cloud software company that helps companies of all sizes automate their commission and bonus processes for paying their employees. So as such, we are big believers in driving employee behavior, and we're huge fans of Hoopla. Which Hoopla for us at Xactly has pretty much become the ESPN for our entire sales organization. So we love it.
And Hoopla is an application that makes it easy for you and for others to motivate their sales teams and drive performance.
Absolutely. We use Hoopla throughout our entire sales organization. We use it to display the data from Salesforce.com on everything from who's closing what deal, who's at the top of the leaderboard, performing the highest, all the way to activity-based metrics from our lead generation team, who's making the most phone calls, who's setting up the most meetings. We measure everything in Salesforce, and we use Hoopla to display it to the world and the sales team to make sure they know exactly how they're performing.
Great. So Steve, let's jump right in. We want to talk a little bit this morning on how you've used Hoopla and gamification to really change the way that your sales teams do business and your overall internal culture and how your sales teams work. Can you tell me a little bit, where was Xactly when you were starting to look for a gamification solution? And to preface that, would I be safe to assume, since you are an App Exchange partner and a Salesforce customer, one of the first places you looked was the App Exchange?
Absolutely, Kurt, you're spot on. So Xactly, as I mentioned, has been around since 2005. We actually started our company at the Dreamforce in 2005, and we were an inaugural App Exchange partner with Salesforce. Been using Salesforce ever since, and our company's experienced some incredible growth over the past 9 years. A lot of that due to our partnership with Salesforce.com. As we've grown, our company is very big on promoting and creating a vibrant, exciting sales culture. Probably started back when I was first a sales rep in the Silicon Valley back in 1991. Actually, our CEO, Chris Cabrera, and I were both telesales reps together at a company in Mountain View called Silicon Graphics.
Yeah,
some old timers in the Valley might remember them. It was a very positive experience for us at Silicon Graphics. We were in a telesales organization that was high growth, and we just remembered it being a very vibrant, energetic sales culture, driving reps to perform. They didn't have to ask us to come in early every day. We wanted to, because we were competitive and we wanted to win. So we had a great experience there, and when Chris founded the company in 2005, founded Xactly, brought me on board as the first salesperson, we wanted to create that exact same type of culture. The good news was in 2005, there were many more tools and technology at our disposal, first of which was Salesforce.com. But as we continued to grow and gamification and sales rep engagement began coming to the forefront as strategic weapons you can use to drive and motivate your sales rep behavior, we started looking into different solutions to help us to that end. So of course we went to the App Exchange when we decided about 4 years ago to branch out. What I mean by that is we started a big office in Denver, Colorado to augment our sales organization in San Jose. We started the Denver office with only 3 folks. We were going to focus them on selling to the small and medium businesses, a new market that we were attacking. And we had to figure out a way that we could get those sales reps more engaged because they were going to be in this remote office out in Denver. So we looked and found a phenomenal tool called Hoopla that I am now an enormous fan of. It was very easy to implement, and it's a great tool to foster and promote, that high energy winning culture. by displaying leaderboards and making sure sales reps know exactly where they stand amongst their peers, and really creating that fun, competitive sales environment. So now we have about 60 people out in Denver.
Wow.
And Hoopla is a big part of that sales culture and making sure that our teams are always striving to win.
And how did, when you first engaged with Hoopla, how did you see like the first transformation in your organization? You must have been concerned that you had remote employees in Denver, and to make sure that they were motivated, they're showing up on time, and all those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
That must have been part of your big concern as a vice president of worldwide sales.
It really was. I mean, whenever you start a remote office, it's kind of nerve-wracking leaving the mothership. You always want to make sure you can import the culture into the new office. I know Salesforce has done it many times, and we're successful. So this is our first real attempt at that, and so in order to do that, we wanted to bring sort of the headquarters environment out to that remote office. And like I said, Hoopla, which is a phenomenal engagement tool, you can call it gamification, but to me it's that, but it's also just a way to keep your sales reps and your employees really engaged. It was great because it was the tie back to the headquarters, showing all the results. We have TV monitors all over our headquarters sales floor. We have TV monitors all over our Denver sales floor, all looking at the same data, as far as which reps are doing really well. Daily activity and performance metrics flashing up on the screen so that sales reps can see each other and how they're doing and stack ranking against each other.
That's great.
It's just a fun environment.
Did you have, as part of your learning and best practices, as far as where the monitors were and how many you have, do you have a certain ratio between how many salespeople for a monitor and stuff like that?
Yeah, we started with one. We have about 15 now. Okay. The more the better. Because monitors are cheap. And so the ROI on that is instantaneous. The more you want every group. The way we kind of did it, Kurt, was we said every single salesperson should be able to look up at some point and see a monitor and see their leaderboard, where they stand, because we're measuring not only quarterly and monthly numbers and metrics, how many deals they've closed and what revenue that they've closed, but even daily activity metrics. So that was sort of the logic. Any rep should be able to look up, see a monitor, and that's how many monitors we have. So we have about 10 or 15 now all over the place.
That's great.
Yeah.
And when you moved to Denver and you started the office, were you hiring net new people to the organization?
We were. That's a great point. So we got Hoopla initially because it was just a really cool way of having a new type of leaderboard. Better than the old-fashioned days when we had like a poster board with names or someone's Polaroid slapped on it, to say, hey, this person did a good job. It was so much more engaging and so much more high tech and really cool looking. When we went out to Denver, we knew we were going to be hiring a lot of Generation Y, the millennials. So I actually started studying up about 4 years ago, started reading a lot about the millennials, this new generation that was coming into the workforce.
And they haven't gotten the best reputation in the business press, have they? It's always that they're lazy, they're not motivated, they're all these other things.
It's true. I read so many negative things about the millennials. There's all these myths about all those things you mentioned. Oh, they don't engage, they're not loyal, they don't want to work hard. I tell you, Kurt, it couldn't be further from the truth. My experience out in Denver, we hired some great talent in that generation, Gen Y. And what we found was, if you can engage them the right way, play to their strengths. It's a very smart generation. And they're very technologically savvy. They're very competitive. They need the company they work for to help motivate them in ways that they're used to. Okay, so, and it's not that they can't focus, they just have to understand what the task is at hand. So if as a management team, if we put their goals in front of them, make them very visible, and allow them to see where they are against their goals so that they can constantly see they're progressing and they're achieving and on their way to win, they will be the most hardworking, loyal employees that you can imagine. So we've been very successful with our team out there, made up of a lot of millennials, but also other generations who, by the way, gravitate to a product like Hoopla just as much.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I can get how a younger generation brought up with more technology, more video games, more everything mobile, everything else would kind of fit right in with Hoopla. But what about some of the older folks that maybe didn't come from that background?
We thought they wouldn't be interested at first. We actually thought, they probably won't care about this. But guess what? They gravitate to it just the same. Because if you hire the right type of salesperson that is competitive, wants to win, who wouldn't respond to that level of engagement? So they want to see their faces up on the screen and their name up on top of that leaderboard, just like anybody else. And so it's been fantastic across the entire sales organization. And on top of that, what we're finding is it's even bringing other parts of our company in and engaging with the sales results as well. Because our engineers, our finance people, people from HR, they come by, they see the monitors at the end of the month or the quarter, key times in our sales cycles. They can see who's closing deals, who's winning, and they get just as fired up. So it's become a really important part of the whole Xactly culture, that's revolved around sales success and the company doing well, and other parts of the organization are gravitating to it in addition to sales.
Wow, that's fantastic, because to have engineers paying attention, or even marketing people paying
come by
attention.
and high five a sales guy because he just closed a big deal and it's on the board. It's been great. And another interesting thing, Kurt, is so we got Hoopla primarily for sales, right? That makes more sense, leaderboards. Other parts of our company are actually looking to adopt it as well. Customer support, because you can track things like cases closed. You can track customer satisfaction metrics, things like that. So more and more parts of the company are using this product to increase engagement and awareness throughout the entire company. And that's what it's all about, really. You want the company, all parts of the company, to really understand what the other parts are doing. It fosters a much better team environment.
Absolutely, yes. As we say here, selling is a team, or it's a team of sport,
it is.
right? So
it absolutely
everybody
is.
has to contribute in their own ways, and if you have visibility, you have such a better understanding as to how you're contributing to the AE or the salesperson's actually closing that sale. That's fantastic, because I was going to ask about that as well, because we've seen also that in the service organization, this is a really great opportunity for those same principles that originally were attached to sales organizations are now really working in service organizations as well.
Absolutely.
That's great. Can you give us a couple examples of some of the first contests that you ran, and were they auto? I think a lot of folks think that it's just a bag of money, like I'm going to put a bag of money in front of you and that's going to motivate you, but that's not necessarily the case.
Not at all. I mean, so exactly because of the space we're in, we automate commissions and bonuses for people. We're all about driving performance and driving behavior with rewards. So we're real students of that, and what we discovered, and what Hoopla helps us, helps us accomplish, is it's not so much the reward. The reward doesn't have to be monetary, okay? We learned that early on. Our first contest, when we were initially a startup company, we didn't have a ton of money, so we were thinking, okay, well, let's just reward people $50 or $100 here and there if they do something good, if they close a deal or they bring in a new customer, whatever. What we found out was that it wasn't so much the monetary reward, it was the whole process of establishing a spiff or a contest. It was defining what behavior they had to engage in order to win, and then making it very clear what the rules were and showing how the competition was going as the competition was happening. So things like even activity metrics. At one point we had on a weekly basis we had cold call Fridays, where on a Friday, the person that made the most cold calls and got the most connects, won a prize. And it didn't even have to be a high dollar monetary prize. Using Hoopla to actually track progress and have either individuals or teams climbing up that leaderboard, that drove an incredible amount of behavior, because, as we said, sales reps are primarily competitive animals, right?
And how much is recognition important to all that, and how does Hoopla help with that, as you're saying? I mean, it's not just money.
Right. Recognition is everything. The sales reps obviously want to be paid the right amount. But once you accomplish that, then what else? It's that recognition. It's seeing their face on that Hoopla scoreboard. It's them seeing that they're the leader for the week or the month or whenever you're tracking the contest or the metric. They want to be top dog, and they want to be at the top of that list. Now, if you're on the bottom of the list, that doesn't necessarily mean that, it's not necessarily a humiliating thing, but for a salesperson, if you're hiring the right type of salespeople, they don't want to be on the bottom of that list very long. So it's going to drive their behavior to improve. So that level of engagement is just fantastic. And the types of contests we run range from actual things like President's Club on a yearly basis to quarterly contests for spot bonuses and things like that. But heck, we had a contest recently where the sales rep of the month got the really cool parking spot next to the building. They didn't have to walk that far in Denver in the snow.
Oh, that's important.
So
important.
Completely non-monetary, didn't cost us much as a company, but drove a ton of great behavior and competitive spirit. So.
And going back just for a second on the millennials, when you were doing some of these contests, did you see them engage more with certain types of contests and spiffs, or was it pretty much across the board?
Millennials and what we found is the other generations as well. Money was a good thing, spot bonus or something like that. But work-life balance was also a really important aspect, a good reward. So if they hit a certain quota, for example, in a month, we gave them a Friday off. We said, hey, go ahead, you get a Friday ski day. That's a big deal in Denver, in the winter. So again, non-monetary, but they responded extremely well. The millennials especially, but all generations. Who doesn't want a day off if they work really hard? And we had a thing called a walk-off Friday, where at the end of the month, if we hit our number or overachieve, say by 10%, hey, you get to take the rest of the day off, something like that. We don't do that too often, obviously. We want to promote a good, solid working environment.
People to work.
But once in a while, it's a cool way to mix it up a little bit and to run a contest. But the consistent thing throughout any contest, regardless of the reward, is that visibility, the ability to track it in a tool like Hoopla, so that they can see exactly where they stand and they get that recognition that they deserve and that they want.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And how do you think where you are right now that Hoopla has changed the culture and the environment at Xactly?
Again, Chris and I, since we were young telesales guys at Silicon Graphics back in the 90s, always wanted to create this vibrancy and this energy. We feel like we've been able to do that just because of our desire to do that, which is a good thing. Everybody in our company is singularly focused. We have a lot of belief in what we do. But tools like Hoopla just take it to that next level. Tools like Salesforce coupled with Hoopla and even our own tool, Xactly, that we use internally, all those things help so much to foster that high energy environment. And it's all about, as I mentioned, the visibility, high technology, new technology that allows sales reps to really understand where they stand. That's the most important thing, communicating to that sales team and the other employees that are involved, making sure that they understand what their goals are, where they stand. That's what Hoopla and of course Salesforce has really helped us accomplish.
And I assume that must help you attract great talent as well, because as a salesperson, I want to know those exact attributes, and if you can provide those to me, I know where I stand on a daily basis. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. One of the best hiring tools we have is we bring candidates into our sales floor. If they've come from a sales environment that's sort of blasé and low tech and not very exciting, and they walk into the Xactly sales organization and they hear that buzz, they feel that energy, they see people's names up on the Hoopla screens, they just look around and you could just tell, you
got them.
You got them. Exactly. So it's fun.
How difficult or easy was it to actually get started with Hoopla, and how long did it take you guys to make the decision until you actually started implementing it?
Amazingly simple. We found it on the App Exchange. We gave them a call. We said we wanted to try it out. We were able to get a quick pilot up and running, I think, in that day, because it just runs off the data that you have in Salesforce or Xactly. It just runs off that data that you use in Salesforce to put together dashboards and reports anyway. So getting it up and running was nearly instantaneous, and we tried it out. And once we tried it out, we were hooked. We saw that it worked, and it just evolved over time.
And originally, you just started with the 3 employees in Denver. That was your test.
Yeah. Well, we just had the 3 folks. We went out to Denver. We got the thing fired up, and it worked really well. And once people started seeing how well it worked with just that small group out there, we brought it back to San Jose as well, and as I mentioned, it's now pervasive throughout the sales teams and the company itself.
Can you give us any examples of how it motivates, or how what effects it's had on your sales teams as far as driving overall sales performance?
And it's great. We have our sales process very, very tightly tuned. We know in order to create a certain amount of revenue and close business, we can take that all the way back to how many phone calls need to be made, how many demos need to be done, how many meetings need to be had. So we use Hoopla extremely effectively to help us drive those activities. So we have daily, weekly contests on how many meetings the lead generation folks set up, how many demos the sales reps and the SEs engage in. And what we've seen is a clear increase in about a 30 to 50% increase in those activities. Wow. Just because they can see how they're doing, they know other people are watching, which is another very powerful part of the tool, and it's driving that behavior. So you see that 30 to 50% increase in activity, and that directly translates into pipeline and ultimately closed deals. So we're really happy with the results.
And now it's just automatically part of your process. As soon as a new salesperson starts, they're just automatically put right.
They're on there. Yep. We provision them a Salesforce license. We get them set up in Xactly for their commission and bonuses, and we make sure all that data is feeding right into Hoopla. So the day they start, they're on that leaderboard, and the faster they can climb up, the bigger a rock star they become. So that's a good thing.
Cool. So can you give us some advice, or give some advice to other companies that are out there that are looking towards this sort of solution that they can motivate and enhance performance in their organizations? What advice you could give them would be really great.
Yeah, I would say keep it simple. First and foremost, don't overthink this. It's a very easy tool to get up and running. So if you're interested in it and you think, hey, this might be a cool thing for us, pick a couple of contests. They don't have to be really complex contests, and give Hoopla a call or go to the App Exchange, set it up and try it out. As I mentioned, it evolves over time, and it's really easy to get up and running.
Were there certain just basic steps you had to start with for those 3 employees to get them going? Was it easy for them just to pick it up right away?
Well, all they have to do is look at the screen. I mean, the work that has to be done to set it up is our Salesforce administrator, Franco. He basically, worked with Hoopla for, 30 minutes, got the initial product up and running, and then over time we started feeding it more and more data, created more and more really cool reports. So now we're measuring all kinds of activity across the sales team. But my advice to people that are interested in this is like I said, keep it simple. You should have contests, sales contests, spiffs. On top of the commission plan, which is a really important aspect. Contests and activity-based metric measuring, that drives short-term behavior, and that's what you want to do. It's not all about the end result of closed deals. Ultimately, it is. But to keep it exciting, you want to have daily, weekly, monthly contests and spiffs and things like that, just to keep it interesting, especially, as I say, for the millennials. They love that stuff. So that would be my key piece of advice. Think about those things, use a tool like Hoopla, get started, keep it simple, don't try and boil the ocean all at once. It's very easy to get up and running. And then just let it kind of take you where you want it to go, because you're going to realize pretty quickly there's so much you can do with this tool and so many great metrics and activity that you can measure. Sometimes you don't want to over dilute it. You want to keep it really focused. But,
and is there a ratio between monetary and non-monetary contests that you guys have kind of found yourself in as you've grown with Hoopla?
Yeah, and our compensation plans, our commission plans, that's where we have most of the monetary reward, right? And so I would say, with Hoopla, it's probably 50-50 between the contests we run, whether they're monetary based or whether it's a non-monetary reward, like some sort of prize. For example, for our lead generation team, we recently had casino night. If they hit as a team a certain goal, once they achieve that goal, they all got to go and spend a night at a casino and gamble. We gave them all $100. And they had a blast. Didn't cost the company a whole lot of money, but it was that kind of thing. So I guess you could call that somewhat of a monetary spiff, but it was really more of an activity prize or a trip. We do more of those now. It's about 50% now, but we're going to do more and more. Those seem to actually get the juices flowing a little bit more. Everybody wants to go on that ski weekend or that trip or something, or get that parking space or something like that.
And how about like as an extra benefit, retention? Does it help you retain your employees longer because you're adding this element of fun in the contest and recognition and also some monetary rewards as well?
You know, absolutely. I think, Kurt, what it does is it continues to allow us to enhance our culture and our environment. And if you create a strong, fun, energetic culture and environment coupled with success, where you're celebrating success, very few employees are going to want to walk away from that. You know, even if they get offered more money somewhere else. You know, what we're finding, it's a very competitive environment out there. Companies are growing, the economy's, you know, bouncing back with a vengeance, and our folks are getting recruited, you know, left and right. So we have to do these types of things to retain our top performers. And so Hoopla, you know, the tools that Salesforce gives us, all lend in creating that really fun sales environment that we have to create in order to keep our top talent. And we absolutely think it has an effect on that, a positive effect.
Yeah, I would imagine so, yeah. And we talked a little bit earlier about the the service organization using some of it. Do you see any other organizations inside Xactly that might be using
you know,
the Hoopla to, even just for transparency even, right?
Absolutely. Marketing, you know, because we have our user conference coming up in May, and we're driving attendance, so we're measuring attendance, you know, and see how many people we can get to sign up for the show. So marketing, absolutely. Marketing also cares a lot about lead generation metrics. You know, how many qualified opportunities marketing is creating and adding to the pipeline. So we use it in marketing like crazy. Our customer support group, as I mentioned, is starting to look at it as well to measure the effectiveness or to show the activity of their customer support folks. Because who doesn't like to see a job well done? You know, and every part of the company has people that want to kind of get that recognition a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
See how they're doing.
And I think it's really interesting how you actually studied the millennial part and how that would affect your sales organization, because that is something that we're all aware of, and that, like we were saying earlier, have had so much bad negative publicity about it, and it's very rarely do you read anything positive. So it's really, really interesting to hear you say such positive, glowing things about the millennials on your team, and how it's like hand in glove for them to just get into the Hoopla situation, and all of a sudden they're just jump right in and away they go, because they're used to that in their environment.
I'm a big fan of the millennials. I call them the next greatest generation because they really are a group of hardworking, smart individuals that if you can harness their desires for development, train them well, and give them clear-cut goals, and give them that recognition and access to technology like Hoopla can provide them, you're gonna do well with that group of folks, and they're gonna perform extremely positively for your company. So it's good stuff.
Fantastic. So do you know what the winner gets drives the most registrations to your user conference?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I mean, it could be a number of things. I'm probably gonna have to go find out what that is. I have a feeling though it's gonna be a little bit monetary and probably a nice weekend somewhere in the mountains or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Steve, very much. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Same here,
Thanks
Kurt.
so much. And we look forward to seeing you next time at our next App Talk. Thank you very much.